I have to log back in? Oh, no, I don't. I just have to hit.
Okay, Miranda, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I apologize for the delay while we were getting some audio problems corrected. This is the Monday, March 7, 2022 Meridian Transportation Commission meeting. I'd like to call it to order at 3:43 p.m. with the roll call. David Ballard.
Present.
Zachary Shoemaker. Ron Lancaster.
Present.
Tom Leclerc.
Present.
Walter Steed is here. Tracy Hopkins.
Present.
Joseph Leckie.
Here.
Stephen Lewis.
Here.
Jared Smith.
Here.
Justin Price.
Here.
Sean Martin.
Here.
Carl Miller. R.D. Huntley. Elisa Taysom.
Here.
Welcome, everyone. The next item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. I don't have any proposed changes to staff. Anyone else? Chair would take a motion to adopt. Mr. Ballard made a motion.
Second.
Hopkins, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The agenda is adopted. Next item is the approval of the minutes of two sets of minutes. The first is January 3 of 22. Comments, questions, points of order?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I noticed on the first page of the January minutes, so page 3 of the packet, the very bottom paragraph, it says Commission Ballard, and I believe it's supposed to read Commissioner Ballard.
Okay, good eye. Anyone else? I have one thing on page 4, and it's more of a question for the sergeant. It's under the Meridian Police Department update, Sergeant Dance, and you talked about, you gave an update that y'all had gotten a grant to participate in multiple mobilizations. And I believe at the end of that, I asked for you to report back to us at a later date when it was available, what the impact of that grant work was, whether it increased the number of stops or anything. Did I do that, or did I dream that?
I do believe you said that or asked that.
Okay, Miranda, could we reflect that in the minutes, please? You see where I am?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Can you clarify what the question was again?
When he made his presentation and finished about the additional grant funds for officers' overtime, I asked him to give us a report back at a future date about any impacts from that grant work, whether it's in stops or citations or whatever the case may be. Very good. Anything else on the January 3 minutes? Okay, let's move to January 4, and then we'll do one motion to adopt both of them. January 4, anyone have anything? I'm sorry, February 7. What am I thinking about? February 7. Okay, hearing no changes to February 7.
Move we adopt both sets of minutes.
Mr. Leclerc makes a motion to adopt. Do I hear a second?
With the changes noted. Yes, absolutely.
With the changes noted. Mr. Ballard seconds. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving along. The next item on the agenda is old business. And we're going to try to see if we can come to some decision on a 2022 field trip. Miranda and I have talked about this, and I think we heard what y'all mentioned at the previous couple of meetings. You have item 3 on page 11 in your packet. There are a couple of suggestions in that memo. Comments, questions, discussions about the memo, or anything additional somebody's thought of. I would like to try to nail down when and what we may want to do in terms of a field trip in 22, so staff can kind of prep for it.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Ballard.
I would ask for the site tour on Highway 16.
Any other comments?
Looks like September 12th is the day. Is that right?
That's part of the proposal. Let's get a topic and then we'll confirm a date.
Just
Mr.
gonna
Chair.
tour a field. There's nothing going to be there. What are you going to look at a field? I
Mr.
mean, what's that?
Well, that-
16 encompass.
That's my question. I live over there. And they have put up now at least 2 signs, one on Chinden and one on Eustic, that says Highway 16 is going to go right through here. That's about all you can see. There is one new subdivision west of McDermott, you can see from McDermott, that is set well back off of McDermott and looks very peculiar right now. And I drove over there this weekend just to confirm what I thought, and it appears they are prepping for the highway to come through between that new landscaping fence subdivision and McDermott. So that's about the only thing I've seen that gives you a real indication of where it's going to be. It's going to parallel McDermott. So I had the same question about what could you really see out there?
I guess I'll be the only guy on the bus then.
I'd be happy to take you on a personal tour.
Let me withdraw my request.
Caleb, you have any comments on, okay. Mr. Ballard withdraws his proposal. Anybody got any interest in seeing the Operations Center and Sign Shop?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
I would like to. I never have. I didn't know they had such a thing.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty.
Any other ideas besides that one? Okay, would September work for everybody? Is that that was the proposal, Miranda?
Yes, Mr. Chair. And we won't need a motion to decide on the topic, but I think we do need a motion to change the September date. So,
So the September date would be to be determined, depending upon when they could let us in over there, probably?
yes,
Okay, so we
We
would do
could
it in
bring that
September,
back.
just not necessarily at the usual time.
yes.
Do we have a motion to do that particular field trip and to make the date and time subject to further information?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I wasn't clear. Unless you want to, we don't need a motion today. We can just decide that,
I thought you
Okay.
wanted a motion on the time change.
well,
The
we
date
can
and the date
decide that
change.
when we pick the date. We can make
Okay.
that motion then if,
Okay, all right. So we're good, everybody?
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
let me ask Ms. Carson. My recollection is the meeting is called formally and then adjourned to take a tour, so.
I believe that's correct, Mr. Ballard.
So, Mr.
This will
Chair-
be my first time taking you on a field trip, so.
Oh, okay, well, your right hand eight there will back me up.
Caleb?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Ballard and the rest of the commissioner, yeah, we'll come in here, we'll take roll. We have to make reasonable accommodations for the public too. So if anyone's here and wants to track the discussions and the conversation, so we'll work some of the logistics out between now and then. Typically, we'll get a parks van or something similar, maybe do an RSVP and see who all is interested in going. But yeah, we'll come here, check in real quick, call the meeting to order, and then hop in a van or two.
Is there a budget for snacks?
So, Mr. Chair, serious question, I guess, so we can do, the council does provide a small appropriations for the commission annually. We have done, like a box lunch from Albertsons or something like that in the past. So if you're interested in doing that, we do have it's not a huge budget, but we can afford a snack, a lunch, dinner, whatever, a dinner, for you all. If that's of interest, we can get a menu passed around to you and do some sandwich or something.
Okay, details to be worked out. We've got time to do it now. Anything else, folks? Okay, we have a
So,
20.
Mr. Chair, I think Miranda's question was, we're in agreement that we don't meet on 5 September, which is Labor Day, but then we'll have to figure out the date to be determined of when the meeting in September is, depending on how the sign shop can accommodate.
Correct. Okay, next item, number 4, is the transportation project updates by Mrs. Carson.
All right, Mr. Chair. 1 second, let me flip that. Okay, I did not have a lot to highlight this month on those, starting on page 12 there in your packet. The ACHD integrated 5-year work plan was adopted. So the link to that final plan is there in your packet. The prioritization kickoff meeting was held. They, I believe I covered it last month, but just in case, they mostly were just soliciting feedback from the partner agencies on what kind of things, how the process works now, and what kind of changes might be beneficial to the valley. On page 13, the next one I will highlight is, you'll notice the Fairview Locust Grove to Eagle project. The name has changed. It's now Fairview Jericho Road to Eagle and Locust Grove Signal. That project has been extended just west of Locust Grove. So I did change the name in the packet just to make sure we're consistent if you're looking up any of these projects on the ACHD web. On page 14, I wanted to note that the FY21 residential capital maintenance is set for notice to proceed in May of this year. And then on page 15, the Highway 16 project, we've gotten a little bit more information on the schedule for that. The first portion that will be bid out will be I-84 to Franklin, and that will be done in March. And then shortly thereafter, U-Stick to Franklin end will be bid out. And then the middle portion will be bid out third from Franklin to U-Stick.
A question, if I may.
Yes.
I don't know what Franklin's second is.
That was a
But
typo.
U-Stick to Franklin and Franklin to U-Stick strikes me as being the same piece of dirt.
Mr. Chair, it is the same piece of dirt. You are correct. That is a typo on my part. I apologize.
I don't think so. I think it was that way in the ITD thing you were working from.
It was I-84 Franklin. Then you are correct, Mr. Chair. That is the way it was written in their email. I copy and pasted their email there, so I apologize.
I read it previously and didn't catch it, but when I read it this time, it was like, wait a minute, where are we?
So to clarify, it is I-84 to Franklin first, then U-Stick to Chinden. Then they'll go back and do
The middle.
the middle.
Good. That makes a lot more sense. Thank you.
And the last project update is the Ada County Transportation Action Plan was adopted in February, and so a link to that plan is listed there in your packet. And that is all, and I can stand for any questions on the transportation updates.
Questions, comments for Ms. Carson? Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir, Mr. Ballard.
While we're on transportation projects, and I'm embarrassed because I do not know this, but I've been asked. I think we reviewed this. First Avenue, East First Avenue, between Meridian and Third. proposed changes. I was asking to relearn that about what's going on in it.
Mr. Chair, I'm just looking through the capital maintenance programs to see which year that is listed in. I may need to follow back up on that. Did you say it was East First?
East First, a couple of the business or people along the street asked me what was going on, because apparently there was some meeting of the business owners or the property owners. And was coming up empty-handed.
I am also coming up empty-handed, but I will get information on that and email it out.
Thank you.
Anything else?
What was, I'm sorry, what was the other cross street? It was
Well, I
East
think it
First,
goes from
Meridian 2.
Meridian to Third. So Meridian, well, Main, excuse me, Main would, yeah, Main to Third.
We're good?
Thank you.
Okay, moving along, the next item is Sergeant Dance. Good to see you, sir. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have requested some statistics from ITD pertaining to reported crashes, and specifically crashes that have a contributing circumstance of distracted driving via or due to mobile devices. And Mr. Leclerc had requested some information before about the city code, the city hands-free device code versus the state hands-free device code, and how we use those, and how when it comes to crashes, citations between the hands-free device and inattentive driving. And so there's some stuff there that we can discuss at a future meeting when I get those statistics back.
Tom, does that do you?
Yeah, that's good news.
Okay. Anything else, sir?
No, sir.
Okay. Any questions for the sergeant?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Sergeant Dance, this is a question that I'll be looking for just feel on the street, if you will. But, you know, we've seen in the news and at the gas pump that gas prices are going up. And I'm curious if that will change driver behavior as far as aggressive driving or just numbers of vehicles out on the street. You know, I don't know if you've seen anything happen already, or perhaps next month, maybe you'll have more observations, but I'm, you know, again, I'm not looking for hard numbers or anything, just kind of, you know, what data. I know for once I'm not asking for data, but you know, just what's the feel on the street from the police perspective in that regard?
Well, I think depending on how far gas prices rise, I mean, I think that's going to depend on if that changes motorist behaviors or not. I'm trying to remember back 2007, 2008 was the last time I think we had these big major increases. And I know when it comes to police work and specifically agencies, sometimes I remember specifically at that time, some of the smaller agencies around really kind of restricted officers and the amount of time that they spent driving around. And I know that had a big effect also on the community. So it'll be interesting to see over the next month or two, especially as we get into summer, how much these gas prices do affect motorists and their behavior and their time they spend on the road. We haven't really noticed anything yet, but it's just been the last month, couple of weeks or so that we've really seen these increases start to hit us here. So it'll be interesting to see.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Lewis.
just an observation. I think it was 2011 or 12, whenever that last bump was. I recall that a lot of people got out of their cars and were buying little Vespa scooters and things like that. And whether that and at that time, there was a big increase in the two-wheeled vehicle crashes around because people, I don't think, were that experienced on the motorcycle, Vespas, whatever they were, scooters they were driving around. And I think now we're going to see that, plus the e-bikes that are very popular now. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see people moving out of their single occupant vehicles onto e-bikes or scooters, and we see perhaps a higher crash rate on those types of vehicles. It'd be interesting to watch.
And possibly increased ridership on the transit system as well, which is down about 30% this year over last year. So I'll be watching that one. A one-time thing that I've noticed, looked like a larger number of cars at the Costco gas pumps this weekend. We shall see. Anyone else on that? Anything else for Sergeant Dance? Thank you, sir. Okay, Mr. Lewis, you are up for item number 6.
Yes, sir. So this is an extension of what I hinted at the end of last meeting in the future meeting topics. One of the other hats I wear is I sit on the ACHD Pedestrian Advisory Group. And as part of that group, they are undertaking a project that involves looking at the enhanced pedestrian crossings in the county. And by enhanced pedestrian crossings, I mean either an Rrfb, a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, or a PHB, a pedestrian hybrid beacon. And what they've assigned the members of the PAG to do is take a portion of the county, and then I need to step back for a second. All the maps that were in your packet, it's only the map of Meridian that I'm asking the commission to look at over the next month's time, not all the rest of the county. So, and what the PAG has asked is that we look at our individual areas for two purposes. I guess the first is to see, do they have the locations of the enhanced crossings that are out there correct? And then after that, could we help identify places that need an enhanced crossing? And as an example of the first part of where is shown on the map that isn't quite correct is the one in red that I had on the Meridian pedestrian facilities map. And this just happens to be near my house, and I drive by it every day. And I said, there's not a PHB there. It's actually almost half a mile north at the crossing at Heroes Park, across 10 Mile. So it's there, but not where they show it there, just as an example. And I haven't done this yet, but I plan to go through our community projects list that we do as a commission and see which enhanced crossings are on there that's something else. Like, for example, Main and King is one that comes to mind at the Idaho Youth Ranch crossing there. I know we've talked about that several times, and I think it's on the community programs list now. So I would ask the commission if you could take the Meridian map over the next month and prior to our next meeting and just look at it and see if it's correct in the places that you travel, and if there are are locations that we should be advocating for new enhanced crossings.
Questions, comments? Mr. Lewis? Lancaster?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So Commissioner Lewis, it seems like the request from the Pedestrian Advisory Group is a little bit slanted in that they're asking for new locations. What if we want fewer locations? Will that be frowned upon if you give that feedback to your group?
Mr. Chair, possibly, but if that's the feedback you want to give me, I will take it back. Out of the Pedestrian Advisory Group.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions, comments?
Chairman,
Yeah, Mr. Leclerc.
Commissioner Lewis. Or is there someone from the West Ada School District on your group too?
I do not believe there is anybody on the Pedestrian Advisory Group.
Well, I know
I don't believe so.
had some experience working with them on these pedestrian and bicycle issues before around the schools, so I'm sure we'll have some experience there to draw from. Reach out to them too.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
if I can, Mr. Leclerc, we did reach out to the school district when we put together our priorities list. So our community programs should include their priorities as well. We also have ex officio member here that will hopefully be reviewing it. I'm sure he will be as well to bring some feedback. So.
Mr. Lewis, I have a couple of questions for you and show my ignorance. What is an Rrfb crossing and a PHBC crossing? What's the difference?
The Rrfb crossing is the rectangular rapid flashing beacon. That's the standard pedestrian crosswalk sign with the two rectangular beacons that are between the main sign and the downward arrow sign, and then has a push button, and the pedestrian pushes it, and the beacons flash rapidly in an alternating pattern for a set amount of time.
The PHB?
Yeah, the PHB stands for Pedestrian Hybrid Beacon, and also it was formerly known as a Hawk crossing. We have one right here at City Hall.
Thank you. Okay, folks, you have a homework assignment. I don't plan at this time to have this as an item on the next month's agenda to discuss it unless Mr. Lewis starts getting enough response from you that he feels it's necessary or should be done. I'll just ask that you try to find time to put some effort into taking a look at what he's asked and respond directly to him if you would. If you hear nothing from anybody in a couple of weeks, let me know and we will remind them. Or if you hear so much you think we ought to talk about it at the next meeting, we can do that too.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh,
Mr. Leclerc.
well, now I have I'm looking at this. So these blue dots, Commissioner Lewis, they're programmed. So should we say, okay, this is on your list, make it a priority, or is that feedback what we're looking for?
Yeah,
Or this program mean it's scheduled?
yeah, these maps in the packet are the first draft of what ACHD staff has come up with, and the three circles, the green, blue, and red circles came out of the neighborhood plans. Like for example, the downtown Meridian plan, the north and the south plan, which was just recently completed. When, I asked the same question when they presented this to the PAG, what the blue circles are supposed to be ones that were identified in the neighborhood plan that are on the integrated 5-year work plan. And the red ones are supposed to be ones that are in the plan, but not not funded yet and not in the integrated 5-year plan. What's really strange is the green one, complete. And I asked the question, what does that mean? Because if it's complete, it should have, either an RRFB or a PHB on it. And they couldn't answer that question. They said it was a rough draft and they'll get back to us. So that's all I've got right now.
Okay, anything from any other commissioner regarding Mr. Lewis's presentation? Okay, item 7 in your packet is the presentation I plan to make tomorrow to the city council, our annual report, which for the most part recaps what we did last year. I'd appreciate it if you have a chance between now and noon tomorrow. If you haven't already, take a look at it. If you see anything that's incorrect in it or anything that's missing that you feel should be in it, contact me directly. It's been put in the council packet, but I will probably read it more verbatim than I should, but not totally verbatim. So I can certainly work something else in if I need to. And that's at 4:30 in this room tomorrow in person.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Looking forward to it.
It will be streamed as well on YouTube. So if anybody wants to watch it from home, they can.
Okay, yeah, get a hold of me tomorrow morning, later today, tonight, if there's anything you think ought to be added or deleted or incorrect in it.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
can I give you one piece of input right now?
Sure.
Okay. So I read through it. It all looks good. I did have one thought. So in the summary of February, the report mentions how Commissioner Shoemaker joined us. I think it would be appropriate to mention who he replaced, so we had a different commissioner for a month, I guess. So I think it's, it could be appropriate to mention everyone that's been a commissioner in 2021, not just from February on, if you will. So I think it was just Commissioner McKinney who dropped off and Commissioner Shoemaker came on. Is that right?
So, Mr. Chair, I believe I had the same thought and then I looked and I believe Mr. McKinney resigned from the commission in December.
And the place wasn't filled until February.
February. Okay. That was my only thought. So we've taken care of that. Thank you.
Okay,
Great minds think alike.
thank you. All right, item 8 in our agenda, staff communications from Mrs. Carson.
All right, Mr. Chair. There were a few communications that were very in-depth this month rather than lots of little communications. So the first one I want to highlight is on page 36, the I-84 Eagle off-ramp update. There is an interim solution underway on that off-ramp. They'll be doing some restriping. There's also money allocated to do a study and design for a more permanent solution, but there's no construction dollars attached to that yet. I believe we can request, if we haven't already, I believe I already did, but we can request ITD come and present when we have more information on that study and that design. The next one I will highlight is on page 37, the Zaldia Montague citizen request. There was a request for some support to get ACHD to do some speed studies, and ACHD was very quick and they had already gotten those underway. I guess they had gotten some requests from other citizens as well. The RV parking complaint, we had requests from a citizen to change city code to be more strict on vehicles over 6 feet parking closer than 30 feet to stop signs. After an in-depth review from our legal, from Emily Kane, it was determined that we cannot make our code on this matter more strict than the state code. And the state code is already set for where vehicles can park. So I did refer that citizen to the state legislator if she wants to continue pursuing that. The last thing I will update you on is the Idaho Walk Bike Alliance. Their newsletter, again, this month had a very in-depth report on legislative updates. So I included the legislative updates from their newsletter in your packet as well. And that's all. And I'll stand for any questions.
Chairman,
Mr. Ballard.
Ms. Carson, on the RV in front of the stop sign within 30 feet. Is that a safety concern or a study concern?
From the, I know Mr. Lancaster does not like when we throw the word safety around. From the citizen's perspective, it was a safety concern that the RV was parking. I believe the exact measurement was 25 feet from the stop sign based on where an ACHD no parking sign was. And so it was slightly closer than the 30 feet, depending on where you measured from. But code enforcement did go out based on the citizen's request, went out and measured and spoke to the property owner. And we let her know that per code, the RV wasn't in any violation, and we can't change our city code to be more strict than the state code. And because he wasn't in violation of the state code, there wasn't anything that we could do as a commission or that code enforcement could do. She would have to have that code changed at the state level.
One follow-up on that. The reason is aware of a couple of cases where the precedent is legally parkers still may not be safe parking, because even if you are parked safely and it inhibits view of an intersection, there is a potential for a negligence. I'm not giving that as legal advice, but I've had to review a couple of those cases. And, you know, I get it. But I'm also thinking, Mayor, didn't we sit on a committee, RV parking and driveways here a year? May not have been on it. I know the RV parking was in some. So it's a little solace, but hopefully someone would think, yeah, if I'm blocking a stop sign, that could cause some problems. I mean, block a view to the stop sign. So I just offer that, not as advice, but food for thought.
Anyone else? Ms. Carson, I have a question about the last sentence at the bottom of page 37. It says, whatever the reason, we should delete the duplicative provisions in city code. Is that your opinion or legal opinion?
This is verbatim the legal's opinion. I don't know that that was necessarily her opinion that we should delete it. I think it was just opening the question. Our code, if I'm recalling correctly, was set before the state's code, which is why we have a duplicative code. We don't typically duplicate state code just to keep the waters clear. So in this case, we already had our code when state set their code. And then when they set their code, they set it so that we could not make ours more restrictive than theirs. So we can't change ours. We could delete it, but it wouldn't serve the citizen any better for us to delete our code.
Attorney Baird has a thought.
Sure, I can just add that Emily is keeping a master list of code cleanups. And I'll bet that what she was saying on that is that when we do the next cleanup, it'll come out. There's no reason to leave it in. It only leads people to call like this person did think they can do something. So we should take it out. So I will double check with Emily. Code rule.
Okay, thank you both. Anything else from Ms. Carson? Okay. The next item is future topics.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
before we get to future meeting topics, could I share a moment of history with Mr. Lancaster about gas prices?
I don't know. Is this going to be,
I'll be brief. In 1974, I want to be politically correct, but we called it the Arab oil embargo. I was in Southern California and gas went from about 45 cents a gallon to $1.75 a gallon. Okay? And one thing that was in place down there was rationing. You could buy 10 gallons at a time.
in lines?
And so, yeah, well, that cut down the line. So you were getting roughly 5.7 gallons. I'm just doing some math. And then later on, when I went to law school in 76 or 77, excuse me, gas started, I was up in Moscow, Idaho. One of the stations was quoting the prices in liters instead of gallons because there's 3.85 liters to a gallon. And so you just divide the price. And so it was this numbers game. And so a kid from Idaho in 74, we're paying about 30 cents a gallon. Go to California, it's 45 cents. Then oddly enough, if you slip down to the Mexican side of the border and could get it, you could buy gas at 27 cents a gallon. But crossing the border, you're at 175. But in any event, just thinking of what happens if there are shortages. They take a page out of the history.
Not that it matters, but I think that was when they had a lot of trouble with gas pumps because they were not made to charge over 99 cents a gallon. Which may be why they went to liters. I don't know.
Well, there was that, because, yeah, I think you're law because some people started putting, painted a 1 in front of it. And the math worked behind, but the reader didn't. So, but in any event, we'll see how patient people are if gas is rationed.
I guess if it gets over $9.99, we'll have the same problem, a similar problem again. Okay, future topics.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
for future topics, I have added the September meeting date. And then if the commission is willing, we could go ahead and discuss the July meeting date as well at that same time at the next meeting. Go ahead and get it out of the way since we discuss it every year anyways, and that way people can get their vacations planned.
I'm sure they're waiting on getting this straight before they tell the family when they can go somewhere.
They definitely are.
Anything on future topics, folks? Anyone have anything on anything else? Despite a late start, it looks like we're going to finish early anyway. We'd like to thank you all. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Hopkins and second by Mr. Ballard. We are adjourned. Thank you all. Sergeant